I think everybody who's going to join has joined. And yeah, so everybody should see my screen. And I have here in the browser a completed version of the Dinosaurs app. And so I just wanted to demo it for you to show you how it looks in the browser and kind of like how, the final, one way that the final version could look like. So you have this input selection and then click, and then you get this dinosaur infographic tile layout. And they give you the HTML, they give you the CSS, they give you the dinosaur array of objects. And, we'll go through, the project summary and what you have to do. But basically, you can see here the different dinosaurs, the different information about the dinosaurs, the human in the middle who filled out the form, right? The user, the person who filled out the form, and then the functions that I ran as I'm going through the dinosaurs to compare the user input to each dinosaur to get, some type of return or output to display back to the user. And then this pigeon that we have here that, reminding us which we've all learned from Jurassic Park, that all birds are living dinosaurs. So kind of a fun project. Kind of puts together a lot of things that we've done up until this point. Like, we learned about forms very early in the program. We learned about DOM manipulation, events, and now objects. So let's see. So looking at the the project summary, they're wanting to give a real world scenario with working with objects. The functionality has two purposes: improve, your experience building objects. And if you remember from last week, we went over a lot of different ways with functions to create objects. And also you've had some sessions on classes as a way to create objects. So you can either use a class or you can use, any of the other ways, like Constructor would probably be a good way to create objects for this project. And then take advantage of user interaction with the DOM. So that's, you got a lot of experience with the pixel art project and with the landing page project as far as like DOM interaction and events and things like that. So it's a stepping stone in a journey which takes advantage of many topics that you've learned so far. Refactor test as much as possible while you're building for every piece of functionality you add. So this is just a kind of like a broad guideline. Writing the best code possible. So they link you out here to this style guide. So this is just good to have something like this along with like maybe like a cheat sheet, like while you're going to write your code, just like things to be cognizant of. Because there's, the project reviewer is like another developer who's like looking at your code and giving you feedback on, what's good, what needs improvement. So yeah, so what you build, the infographic, we just looked at that in the browser. And they give you the form, the HTML, they give you the CSS, so you don't really have to write much of that. You can kind of manipulate it in the JavaScript if you want. So we looked at this 3x3 grid, 9 in total. So here's what you'll learn working with objects and the DOM together. And then just some questions. So, if you want to like pop these into a Word document and, answer them for yourself, like the ideal workflow, which design pattern, we looked at the revealing module pattern. So that'd probably be a good one to use. A constructor function, a factory function, or something else like a class, for example. How many JavaScript functions do I need? So we'll look at the rubric. They kind of want you to have at least 3 functions that compare the user input with the dinosaur object data. And should my function be this many lines of code? So like if you end up writing like hundreds of lines of code, I think you might be overdoing it. I had a student recently, they were writing like thousands of lines of code. And I think, at that point, you kind of want to stop and say like, focus, and perhaps it's a little bit too much. Is readability or performance more important? I would go for readability at this point. They haven't really talked too much about performance in in the course. But yeah, let somebody else in. So Warner says, should the compared objects appear in a second call, or always the one call and put in the middle? Yeah, I think once you hit the submit button, it should kind of loop through. It should take the user object and then should loop through the dinosaur array of objects and compare each one and come up with like a resulting output for the human. Mine kind of, and you know, I just did the bare minimum. I mean, you should go above and beyond, and they kind of in the rubric give you some, like, if you really want, if you're finished with the project and you want to do more for it. But like I wanted to kind of get on to the next project. So like here's like weight, height, and then I had a function that compared weight. So it says you weigh less than 7 dinosaurs. Then I had one that compared the diet. So you share the same diet as 5 dinosaurs. And then you were shorter than 0 dinosaurs. So the first function compared weight, the second one compared diet, and the third one compared height. And those were just very easy conditionals. Like one is greater than, you know, the user input, is it greater than or equal? Is it less than? And then, you know, else, if yes, return this, else return that kind of thing. The old comparison shouldn't be saved. So yeah, so like once you refresh this, you should be able to go back here and then enter different data and get some type of like different result. So I would just kind of like experiment with that, because they don't actually have you writing real tests for this. So it says there's no single correct answer to any of these questions. So yeah, so that's what I was saying, like pop these in a Word document, answer them for yourself, maybe share them on Slack, see what other people say. While building the project, working with peers, getting feedback from a project reviewer, you'll develop answers for this. Okay, so the next one is this. One thing I want to mention is, before we go to this rubric, is the knowledge base, right? So like in the last few times I did project intros, I emphasize this, and it goes the same for this. Like, you know, you come here, you filter it down to project. Here's a pretty common question. How do I get the dino.js file into how do I get the dinosaurs, which is in a JavaScript file, into the app.js? So a lot of people have had this question. It comes up first, how to load data from a JSON file. The 2 ways, in case you're wondering, you can use this import at the top of your app.js file to import that, or if you're feeling like comfortable learning something new on your own, because we haven't got here yet, but we will get here after this project. There's this thing called the fetch API, which you can request the file into your app.js. I use this way and didn't have really much of a problem with it. So just wanted to kind of review that, because that's a kind of an easy way to get stuck right in the beginning, is not able to get those in. But there's a lot of people here who had issues with that and answered it. So I would say, you know, definitely make use of this. Someone said fetch wouldn't work anymore, at least for references. Correct. Okay. Yeah, I would, you know, see what works for you. If, you know, this way will definitely work. So if fetch isn't working, then I would give this a shot. I'll make this available with the recording to this link. Let's see. Okay, so we were up to here on the rubric. So definitely read through this a few times, because it's easy for them to catch one of these things and kick it back to you. So no error messages should be logged to the console. So you want to open your console and have that open. I think the whole time that you're developing, it's good to keep that open. And then any console log statements that you do write. So this is like a development thing where you're adding these statements throughout your code. But when you go to submit a final product, you want to have these removed. So they kind of made it a point right at the beginning. So make sure you remove those. There should be a click event where the form should no longer be visible once. So you kind of saw that after I filled out the form, I hit submit and the form went away and you get the infographic. 9 tiles, 7 dinosaurs, 1 human in the middle, which is the user. from the form, and then one bird at the bottom. Excuse me. And then refreshing the screen and entering new data should reveal different facts. So it just basically refreshes the whole thing, and then you enter different user input, and you get like a little bit of a different like text snippet. Ensure that we looked at this style guide from Udacity. Code should minimize code repetition. It'd be easy to read, maintain dry. So, you know, loops are a good thing to use so that you're not, you know, repeating yourself. Name variables descriptively. They get into that with the style guide as well. Use comments as needed to document code functionality. That's in the style guide. Functions should include comments to describe the function. Function should be declared. So like here they go over like, here's like for a constructor function. Here's just for a regular function. So maybe try out using this kind of comment structure for your functions. And it says there should be at least one class function for creating new objects. So like it's either a class or a constructor function. There should be 9 objects created. And the student should complete the human object with the data pulled from the form, right? There should be at least 3 methods. So like the 3 methods that I was using was like comparing weight, comparing height, and comparing diet. You know, based on kind of what the user is inputting. I thought that was the most logical way to do things, or smooth way to kind of get it finished. I believe you can add more form fields. Like if you want to add more inputs, you know, feel free to do that, but you might be giving yourself extra work. Student may choose additional options to the form to compare alternatives, right? Like location, length, or time period. So yeah, I think we'll take a look at the code, but like in the dinosaur objects, I think they have like a lot additional properties, so you can do something like that. Iterate through the objects, create tiles, species, image, and the fact that appended to the DOM. So you have to kind of add those dinosaur images using the image tag in your JavaScript. So as you're appending these like tiles, you know, you're going to append the image. And the source, I believe, is a property in the dinosaur object. Conditionally display appropriate information for human, bird, and dinosaurs. And here's if you want to do more, you can do more. All right, let's get back here. Get the starter code, which I think I had, yeah, right behind here. So here's the HTML file. So there's the form. Here's the grid where this is where you're going to append the tiles to. And here's the dino.json file. And really they give it as a JavaScript file. Maybe I turned it into a JSON file, I forget. So yeah, so here's the different properties. And the images are in here. So you can see like the images are like the name of the species, but the name of the species has a capital letter. So you can do some JavaScript to make that lowercase, and then basically append this concatenate this .png, and then that's how you can get like this image source to get the image onto the page. Then kind of where they are, when they existed, like a fact about them. Let's see what else we got. CSS. So, you know, just kind of go through here, make notice of kind of what they're using. If there's anything like you don't understand, like when you're reading other people's code, like you could say like, look this up later. So like as you're going through like other, you know, developers code, you kind of want to make notes. You kind of want to go through it first and just get a rough idea. And then whatever, there's something that's like you want to freshen up on or whatever, you can, you know, put a comment to yourself to kind of come back and look at it. And then here is the app.js file. So Dino constructor or class, create the new objects, right, with the new keyword, if you remember that. create the human object from the form. So you have to like grab those values from the form. That, you know, the name is like a string, the height